My name is Wolf, and today we are back with our life beginning and always with Derek's epilogue.
Another day then. It'll be too awkward to go back up there and beg Nicholas for a switch. That's time we gotta play smooth. But without it, there's not much to do at the apartment. Was drifted off. His mind was working. And without another interruption, yours was as well. The loudest sound in the cabin of the still car was Derek drumming his fingers against the steering wheel. What did you want to do? That was the question. Got a standpoint. It was worth considering, not just what to do in general, but what you could do while you're in that location. That location, of course, can be far from the big park your mums will sometimes take you to. The same place Derek frequented with his brothers. We could stop by the big park, or the normal park to you.
Leave it to me.
Totally. That'd be perfect. I know how to get there. Buckle in. I didn't have to tell you twice. You snap the seatbelt into place for the ride. Anticipation stirred in the air, and the car switched to life. Then Derek pulled onto the street. The park was even closer than you guessed, because a mere minutes after you came up with the plan, it had been executed. And luckily, there were a few free spots in the lot. Parking in the park was no trouble. Derek did a hop, skip, and jump out the door, around the back, and bent inside, popped the trunk open. He rummaged around there for a minute before slapping it shut. He joined him outside and spotted immediately what the mini pit stop was for. He locked his car with a clicker in one hand, but tucked under the other was a well-worn football. Everything was ready. You and Derek leisurely wandered down the path towards the Harbour Park. When you officially arrived at your destination, the sun was barely peeking through over the horizon. It wasn't dark quite yet, but the shadows were threatening to fully embrace the scene any minute. Scattered clumps of strangers enjoyed the summer evening all around, the perfectly trimmed field of grass. Parents with their children, groups of teens, elderly pairs, people of all stages of life were there to share in the similar, yet entirely unique experience. Derek stood by your side. You could hear him inhale deeply through his nose. You took in the sight intently. You glanced away from the wide expanse in your face to face Derek. He smiled the moment your eyes met. The ball shifted from one hand to the other. Want to throw this around? I like that.
Awesome.
Cool. The two of you claimed the far corner of the grass for your own purposes. No one was likely to interrupt you or be hit by a misfired ball there. Derek took the football from the crook of his arm. He warmed up by juggling it higher and higher, tosses to himself, grabbing from behind his back and bringing it to the front again. Blocking the ball over that way was second nature to him. Derek might not have even intentionally decided to do it. It was pure habit. Then he flipped the ball your way with the flick of his fingers. You put more distance between him and you before lobbing the ball through the air to return it to its sender. He got it effortlessly in the palm of his hand. The game was on. Back and forth, an easy rhythm developed between you and him. There wasn't anyone in the world you could sing better with than Derek. Thanks to no cancel our plans with the water park.
Don't worry about that.
I wouldn't miss it for anything. And you didn't doubt that for a second. The day grew. Oh my god, my sounder just fell off and I hit the spacebar. The day grew later, and the park slowly emptied of other people. In the quiet of twilight, smacking sounds of ball against his hands echoed loudly. One catch of Derek's was impressively. One catch of Derek's was especially impressive. He snagged the ball without even looking. His fond green eyes squarely on your face. But the longer you play it, the more light on his features dimmed. It's been a gradual decline, but that it had been a gradual decline now that you noticed it. However, it was impossible to ignore now. He weakly passed the ball over to you. It was going to stop short. Had to jog closer to him to even get it. His complete loss for energy was concerning. And after you paused the exchange, for a moment you only watched Derek stand there, told his son to expression defeated. You felt grateful for the excuse to be narrated to him by the slow throat because he spoke distinctly to himself. It would have been impossible to hear the full length that used to be between. It would have been impossible to hear from the full length that used to be between you, and now you still had to strain your ears to not miss his words. I can't believe how long it's been. I'm here with you in my old park. So much is the way it was before, but it's not the same. I kind of feel the way I used to about it. You mentioned a similar sentiment too at the mall, and you visit Sunset Bird too. Derek pushed it off each time before, but that thought had continued to wear at him, despite how much he had been avoiding confronting it. Derek, what happened? I know something bothered you. He pointed the sent football over. You pointed the football over. You pointedly sent the football over again, putting the ball literally and metaphorically in Derek's court. He gripped the football in both hands and stared at you just as hard. Distant lamps flickered on around the park. The darkness in Derek's features were contrasted even more strongly when it lit up from behind. It was much later than you realized it was. You know, my life story, for most of it at least. I want to be a good sports, and I tried. In high school and college, I put my all into it. After that, there's not a lot of ways you can go further with it. You can coach or teach or aim to go pro. I had that chance. I could have tried to make a career. I could have tried to make a. I had that chance. I could have tried to make playing an actual career. Really? That was incredible. It left you entirely stumped. And all the calls you had and during the entire time you'd been here with him never hinted at anything like that. That's right. He owned up the admission with deeply furrowed brows and a self-distinct sneer. Maybe I would have made it in the minor leagues, or even majors. Maybe I would have face-palmed it. I didn't get far enough to find out because I quit. He just stood away from you with a pained shout. Derek chucked the football towards Noah with all his strength. It shot in the distance, completely vanishing in the inky skyline before you ever saw it hit the ground. Derek stared at where the old ball from his much younger days had gone, even though it was truly and thoroughly gone. I gave up and left, and that's it. Have you been okay while you were away? I don't know if I've ever been okay. You got an answer, a hollow, distant reply that reminded you that not all of Derek knew. His empty hand squeezed into iron full fists. Solid or too heavy to hold up. I did love sports. I think I did. Sometimes. I'm not sure I can remember. What I do know is that I had something to prove. If I ever stopped, it felt like I'd be given up. I'd be a quitter, a failure who couldn't cut it. I could never arrive, either. There was always another goal in the distance that I still hadn't reached, so I had to keep going. Derek's eyes were hazy. His chest rose and fell at an unsteady pace. He still hadn't stopped looking out in the dark, expecting again nothing from it. Downgrading my playing time nothing more than a hobby would have been the same as not playing at all. Wasted effort, wasted potential. What a shame! what people would think.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought. I know it's true. All I was developing those skills. I know it's true. All I did was develop those skills. If I don't use them, then what's the point of trying so hard? For a second, a long hidden anger crackled. He faced you in his fury. But again, Derek settled back into somberness before continuing to address you. But, like I said, what does that mean? What could that go other than doing it forever? How long did it take? Why did it take me this long to realize something that obvious? That I was going to have to do it forever? That would have been fine if I actually wanted to spend my whole life and all my time on perfecting my skills. But no, I'm not that smart. From the start, it was a means to an end. I'd be good at sports and then I would feel worth something. And then I could really live my life. Missing time with friends and families, the crazy hours I had been waiting for when that would finally stop. It never did, unless I stopped it. You could see the results of my hard work and great planning right in front of you. I went home as the guy who couldn't make it. I got my life back, and I don't feel the tiniest bit better. It might have been worse when I was more thick-headed. I could tell myself I was really doing something. But here hasn't turned back the clock. Being here hasn't turned back the clock. I can't look forward to what life I could have been when I'm growing up. I'm just an adult who wasted so much of my life already because I had a chip on my shoulder. And I'm so pissed off. His face fell into his hands, and that was where the story of Derek stopped. He resolved to reassuring him somehow. If there was one person this world who deserved to hold his head up high, it was Derek Suarez. You still have plenty of time. Life's just getting started. Apparently, Derek's face lifted. His shoulders remained bowed, though. You could see his eyes. Regret is what you saw in them, but you had his attention. You're irreplaceable to your family, and to me. No one has your character, no one has your determination. No one considers others more. You're not a quitter or a failure or anything else like that. I can't let you keep believing being you is a waste. You should enjoy every day you have coming. I'll be here to remind you of that. And I'll make sure I'll be here to remind you of that. And I'll make sure it happens. Finally, small smiles began to settle on both of your faces again. The gloom wasn't insurmountable. Nothing was. When you and Derek were together. You're a team. It was evident in the way he looked at you. Facing the darkness all around him, Derek lost. But fears and reservations faded when he had you to lean on. And it was the same for you with him.
I can't say no to that.
Man, how am I supposed to say no to that? You're the best person I know. He stood tall in front of you, with a smile parked on one side. He stood tall in front of you, with a smile parked on just one side. Not because he couldn't make it whole this time. He was smirking. Okay, I'm about to tell you something that will not be a surprise. My dad did football when he was in high school and college. Hearing stories of that is where my sports aspirations came from. I even played the same thing in the end. I'm not surprised. I figured. Also, not getting surprised was that I sucked at it. And I was scrawny. And I hated that. Getting better became the main driving force in life. And focusing on that, putting so much effort there, it kind of made everything else easier. Being the eldest having responsibilities in my family, having to be reliable. It felt less scary than when there was a bigger goal to hit. Everything else was nothing. I never directly confronted my feelings of inadequacy. I accepted myself for what I was, because I could say I wouldn't be the way I was forever. I'll become successful. But I put proving myself and being talented over being happy. I missed so many things. I barely let myself see you. And there was no way I could have started a relationship, but I knew I wouldn't be able to prioritize it as much as I should have. You deserve better. But things were happening, and you were there through all those years.
I could have just been happy the whole time.
I think that's what really hurts. I could have just been happy the whole time. Derek's words disappeared as the dark whisper in the light. Oh my god, what? Where did that even come from? Derek's word disappeared as a whisper in the dark. His eyes closed, and he took a moment of silence to mourn the life he might have known if he had the confidence to go for it sooner. You never had to prove yourself to me. Your voice reached Derek. His eyes wide open, unafraid to face what was ahead of him.
I know.
I know, Callie. I wish I let myself believe it sooner, but I do now. Kissed him. After everything, he felt Derek could definitely use a gentle touch. He wanted to make sure he knew you were there. He pressed his lips against yours as soon as you brought your arms around his neck. His body was welcoming and solid against yours. You hoped your presence was as reassuring to him as it was to you. I don't think you have to give up football if you do it for the right reasons. Only if you want to.
What?
What? I didn't expect anyone to say that. He chuckled. It was bemused and rueful. Once I gave it up, I never considered I could go back. But maybe it's not so impossible. On the happiest note possible, Derek released you from his hole to ruffle his hair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Callie. It's been cool being able to talk to you about things. I feel so much better. Derek's face was hopeful and gentle and wonderful. That's why we got that deal, right? Make sure we've both got support. Looks like it's working out. Derek lightly clasped his hands together, stretching them apart, and pressed them against each other again. He was clapping along to a song only he could hear. One thing that was silently shared between you was a warmth over your cheeks. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Derek let out a bellowing groan. The massive relax of air to physically deflate his body. Derek's torso dropped lower and lower until he could have touched his toes. He was expectedly flexible.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna have to go get that ball now. He laughed instantly, partly at the revelation and partly at the dramatic assault it had been sent with. Still bent in half, he stuck his hands against his hips, twisted his head up so you could see him wink. It was a gift. I'm not gonna abandon it here. Don't worry, I'll help. We tackle life's problems together.
You know it.
You know it. Team Callie and Derek forever. After that wholehearted cheer, Derek ran headlong through the bush. You chased after him with leaping steps. You peeked under every picnic table, behind every bush. You peeked under every picnic table, behind every trash can, in the general area before the lone bubble was discovered, tucked away among some flowers. Thankfully, none of the bells were harmed by it coming to rest in their bed. Derek lifted the ball over his head dramatically, as if he was in the lead video game who got a new brand. Derek lifted the ball over his head dramatically, as if he was the lead in the video game who got a brand new item to equip. He applauded. The two of you returned to Derek's car from there, the last one still in the lot, and left the park behind victoriously. He shuffled back into the silent apartment after another long day out. When Derek hit the light switch and illuminated the space, he began to chuckle airily.
Oh,
Oh! The first sight that greeted you was the counter spilling over with unsorted bags of miscellaneous dry goods. They'd remained right where you left them in the rush of that morning, patiently waiting for their turn to be put away. Even though you saw Derek put them there with your own eyes, their existence had entirely faded away from your mind. All you'd imagined when stepping through the door was a free and clear path to your room in the apartment, and the cozy bed that was included. Your thoughts were spoken aloud, though, not by you.
oops.
I forgot about those. He scratched the top of his head like he was staring at a blackboard covered in algebra. But he kept that away in the initial bewilderment with a firm clasp of his hands. Derek kept them clasped together while glancing at you. You can go to bed. You can go get ready for bed. I'll put these away real quick. I'm gonna feel uneasy trying to sleep if I know this still isn't done. That happens to you too? I can never leave a mess uncleaned overnight. Yeah, totally. How am I supposed to relax with a disaster right down the hall? Well, I do that very easily. And I sleep with a disaster in my room. Though, I suppose you can't really call a overflowed broken washing basket full of clean clothes and a bit of a disaster. My wardrobe is in a worse state, but oh well. Exactly. I'll fix that problem. There was no way you could walk away from that mountain of clutter, even if Derek intended to clean everything up. You had to have a hand in it. Derek was more than pleased to have you on the same page.
Let's get to it.
Thanks, let's do it then. Thanks, let's do it, team. Time was called and you go to work on the final task before rest could come. There was more of a system for the cupboards than there were in the fridge and freezer. You fished out the goods of the bag. You fished out goods out of the bags, passed them to Derek, and he placed them on the shelf where they belonged. As he rearranged his serviceable spice set to make room for more goods, Derek explained his thought process. He preferred having stuff for breakfast in one cupboard at the far end of the kitchen, seasoning and baked goods together in another, the shelf closest to the stovetop and everything else in the middle. When you got on the layout, you switched the burn items away directly, instead of playing the support role. With your combined efforts, it only took a few minutes. After the plastic bags had been stuffed in the space under the sink, you high-handed, smacking both of your hands against Derek's, for a job well done. Having a partner to tackle the small things was just as nice as having someone you could count on for life's biggest struggles. Derek had matched your thoughts on forgetting the groceries, and you felt like working together to put those away and brought your minds to sink in again. His expression was peaceful. A weight had been lifted off his broad shoulders, both from the perfectly orderly kitchen and the company he had with it. Derek waved a hand in an arch that was as wide as the smile on his face.
Night.
Night, Callie. Sleep well. As he passed you, gave him a quick kiss. It was a sweet, affectionate touch. The heat of his skin was still enough to keep you cozy inside and out. He needed that to get through the inevitable separation. That left Derek frozen in place, watching you go so dreamily that perhaps he had already fallen asleep while standing there. Your quality time with Derek was put on a temporary pause, to prepare for bed and collapse into your sheets. But in a blink, the sun had risen once more.